This episode is brought to you by State Farm. From your morning podcast to your afternoon playlist, State Farm knows you personalize your entire day, and that's why State Farm helps you personalize your insurance with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. It offers coverage options that help protect what you care about most at an affordable price just for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Join us on this week's Wrap podcast as we review all the Welsh Rugby from last weekend and take a look ahead to the big game in Scotland next week. Let's get going. You're listening to Wrap, the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Podcast. Hello and welcome back to the Wrap podcast with me, Lee G. Joining me as always, Jamie, Harley, and Nick. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello there.
It's a Nick's pumped up. You can tell Nick's pumped up for tonight. Nick's
I've calmed down a bit.
He's had a good one. Right. There's loads to get through tonight, gents. So we will kick off with a very short news desk this week. James, it's quite nice to have Welsh Rugby and have a quiet news week. So what's on the news desk this week, mate?
Yeah, not much. Just some re-signings news. So 2 players have signed new long-term deals at the Dragons, and Ivan Owen, who's been vice-captain, and Harry Keddy. They've signed new long-term deals at the Dragons. That's very good news. 2 important players. And also Max Page, who had a very good game against Ulster. Exciting young talent. He signed a new deal with the Scarlets. It's his first senior professional contract. So congratulations to him. But yeah, that's all the news I've got. It's quite brief. Not much happening. Makes a change, doesn't it, in Welsh Rugby?
It does. Considering we started this just before the whole sexism stuff started kicking off and all of that. And every week since, it's been, we get to a Monday morning, we go, well, what's the news desk? Well, actually, yeah, there's quite a bit. And Welsh Rugby's starting to quieten down. It's quite nice. Harley, talk us through the women's game then, because that's kind of, we're nearly at the end of the Celtic Challenge and we're getting ready for Women's Six Nations, yeah?
Yeah, so all the big women's competitions are starting to wrap up. So Celtic Challenge, so latest score updates for that was Brython Thunder got a big away win up at Glasgow. So they won 33-17. So I'm sure you'd be pleased to hear, Lee, that's actually a 4-point better difference than Gwalior managed up there. Because I know you Scarlets fans like to pick on even the tiniest wins over us. Gwalior, unfortunately, they went down 48-17. But again, something to please you, Lee, they won the second half 17-7. That was against the Wolfhounds, though, who had top place at the table. Yeah. Gwalior are now out of rec contention for potentially winning the tournament, although, as I said at the start, probably weren't going to win. So this weekend, then, Gwalior at 12 o'clock on Saturday are going to be hosting the Clovers at Ystrad and Brython Thunder are going to be hosting Glasgow in the return fixture for that. So make sure that they finish 5th. They might actually be able to go 4th. I haven't looked at the table in that detail. That'll be 12 p.m. on Sunday at the park. So if you do want to go, I mean, I think the tickets are like £5 if that. So, I mean, it's worth a shout. I mean, there's no other rugby in Wales. There's no other pro rugby in Wales on that day. And then in other news, the extended training squad for the Women's Six Nations has been announced. So this is just basically for a chance to have a look at players and who they go into the final squad. A couple of glaring things that have come up is we've only got 2 fit tight heads in there with Cecilia's injury. And when I say fit, I mean Donna Rose is injured. So it's basically James Cogle from Gwalior is the only fit thing. It's 27 forwards, 21 backs, and 4 Wales under 18 players have been brought in. Interesting recall for Neve Terry, who hasn't been involved in the Wales camp for a while, but has been playing for Britain. You can hear our opinions on that on the Women's Rugby Treehouse coming up over the next week or so. And that's the Women's Roundup for now.
When does Women's Six Nation kick off? Is it the week after, or is it like a 2-week break after the men's finishes?
There's going to be the week after. So we've got this weekend, which is the last round of the Celtic Challenge. Then we've got the PWR final on the Sunday. And then on the 22nd of March, that's when the Women's Six Nation kicks off, where we'll be playing Scotland. And I'll give a rundown of the fixtures next week. But for now, I just thought, let's get the boring men's game out of the way.
Well, if anyone is listening who's interested in the women's game, do give the Treehouse a listen at some point through the week, because it is good fun. Even if you know nothing about the women's game, I know nothing about the women's game. I've barely got enough time to watch a men's game at the minute, so I know nothing about the women's game. But I always have a listen, and it's just entertaining listening some of the time, and it does get you into a bit where you go, well, maybe I'll just try and see if it's on telly. And then it gets disappointing when you have to try and find it. Yes. But fingers crossed, Six Nations will be better.
Thank you for reminding me, Lee. Both the games for the Celtic Challenge will be on BBC iPlayer through BBC Sport or through the sport category thing. The Brython game will also be on the Celtic Challenge YouTube channel.
There you go.
This
is the information we need. See, this is the information that people like me need, where we go, right, this you don't need to go through the stupid bit of searching for it. You can just listen to Harley and he'll tell you where it is. Good man, Harley. Well done. Right. Let's move on to men's rugby from last week then. Unless Jamie would prefer to talk about other things, what you had for lunch, walking the dog, anything other than Dragons on Friday, Jamie?
Well, I've already discussed this game on Dragon Slayer last night, so I could just say, no, I'm not going to talk about it, and you can listen to the Dragon Slayer, which is out now on all good podcast platforms. I don't have to say anything, do I? No, I think I will have to, won't I? I think this game was a microcosm of the Dragon season, where they play well in the first half and then they just completely implode in the second half. It is worth pointing out Dragons did have 20 players unavailable for this game. And I know Ospreys fans would say, well, we had 20 players unavailable going up to Glasgow, but unfortunately we do not have the quality or strength and depth that the Ospreys have. So, yeah, it's a bit of a killer to have that many injuries. We've been hammered by injuries all season. So Rodri Jones didn't travel for personal reasons, which is a big blow because he's quite an experienced player. So we had to bring in 21-year-old Dylan Keller-Griffiths, who was making his first start for the Dragons. And then we had to put a 19-year-old prop, Owain James, who's been playing for the Wales under-20s. So it was a fairly young team overall. But look, I think we were always going to be underdogs for this game. Nobody expected Dragons win. Wasn't exactly a great start, was it? With Will Reid missing a penalty straight in front of the post. I mean, how on earth he missed that? I mean, even you could have kicked that, Lee, I think. Even I could have done
kicked that back heel in it, man. It was.
I know.
I used to coach boys kicking, and you'd never coach them in front of the posts, because the chances of you getting a kick in front of the posts is remote. Yeah, you hardly ever. And this was like perfect. I cannot understand how a professional player can miss that kick. I'm not having a go at the guy and all of that kind of stuff, because it's pressure and it's you feel bad enough about it as it is. But yeah, it does kind of sum up where you are at the minute as a team, doesn't it?
I think this was worse than Sam Costello's miss in front of the post of Ronnie Parade a couple of years ago. I thought that was bad, but this was a shocker. It really was. But so not a great start. But then after that, the Dragons grew into the game. Brodie Coughlin was excellent. He carried really hard. He scored a couple of tries. Joe Westwood finished off a great move, orchestrated by Hugh Anderson, who was having a really good season. You know, in what has been a really miserable season for the Dragons, Hugh Anderson is our one bright spark. So it's great to see him develop. Dragons dominated most of that first half. They were 21-7 up and they were looking good. But then just before half-time, they conceded one of the softest tries you'll ever see. I mean, to fall for a dummy like that, I mean, it's like Gavin said last night, it's just basics, and it was so, obvious what that dummy was, it was too obvious. We could all read what was happening. It was just so soft. But then 21-7, that became 21-14. And then the second half, it was just same old Dragons. They huffed and puffed, compounding errors, daft penalties, soft tries. I think one of the most concerning aspects of that Dragons performance was how tired the players looked early in our second half. Is something we talked about last night. Players blowing after like 47, 48 minutes, which is just really unusual. No coincidence that Philo TT was talking about fatigue during the week before the game. And I just thought we looked very tired very early in the game. So I think that's quite worrying. I don't know what the reason is, whether they've been beasted in training, whether it's a fitness and conditioning issue. It shouldn't be because we got Ryan Chambers there from the WRU, but something just was off. How tired we looked. It was picked up on commentary as well. But yeah, it was just very poor second half. Dragons bench made no impact at all. It was a very weak bench in fairness, but Zebra's bench did make a big impact. I think that's what tilted the game in their favour. So a very disappointing game. We've seen it so many times with the Dragons where they play well in the first half and then they just completely fall to shit in the second. I think it's mentality. Like I said on the pod last night, Dragons are serial losers, so it's very difficult for them once they find themselves in a commanding lead to build on it because they're not used to being in that position. They're constantly used to chasing the game. And they're not used to being in that position of holding out the lead. But, credit to Zebra, man. We got to give them credit. It's the first time they won 3 in a row since 2018. They now have the same amount of wins in the URC as Cardiff, Osprey, Scarlets, Ulster, Benetton, Stormers, Connacht and Edinburgh. So, credit to them. I don't think they were as good against us as they were against Munster and Ospreys when they beat them. But they didn't have to be good to beat the Dragons, let's be honest. But if you look at the table now, it's only 9 points separating 4th and 15th in the table. It's a remarkable season, isn't it? It's it's so open. And it is nice to see Zebra do well, even if it is at the expense of the Dragons, because I think it just makes for a better league, doesn't it, when everyone's competitive. But as for the Dragons, they're languishing now at the bottom of the league, 17 points adrift, and let's be honest, the end of the season can't come soon enough for him. It's been an absolute disaster this season. If I could pull the plug on this season, I really would, but unfortunately I can't. But a very disappointing, but sadly predictable night for the Dragons.
So when we've done the end of the roundup, I want to come back and talk about mindset. And because you spoke last night about the psychology of winning, the psychology of losing, and we've touched on it on here before, we've touched on it on Scarlets before, and it's something that affects us all. And I say we'll come back and talk about it after we've done the reviews, but I don't think Welsh Rugby gives enough focus to that area as we should do. But we'll come back to that after. So Saturday afternoon, Cardiff headed north-ish over to Leinster.
I say west is the further distance.
You know what you kind of go up and over.
That's what I said. Northwest it is in a valley compass direction. There are more than 4 leagues.
Cardiff headed west. Jesus Christ. So, I mean, let's say after 20 minutes, you must have been looking at that scoreline, Harley, and going, hang fire. I mean, I know you were watching the game live, you watched it after, but after 20 minutes, you must have been thinking, hang on a tick, this is not bad.
So the reason I didn't watch the game live was I actually played myself. So after showering in the bar with a pint, and we're watching the end of Barry 1's game, and I just checked. I've just sort of get an update of the scores because I saw a bit of chat on the group chat. And I went, oh, bloody hell, half time, we're only 2 points behind, and that's a missed kick, which is just a standard thing. I mean, the fact we got 1 of 2 is impressive for Cardiff at the moment. And I thought, oh, crikey, that's going to be all right. And then, anyway, so I finished my beer, drive home. By the time we get back, we get the score, which I'll be honest, I quite like because it's at least a palindromic scoreline. I don't mind losing by a palindromic scoreline because the mass nerd in me just gets out of me. But, hang on, how did we lose there? The fact we only lost by 18 points actually isn't too bad, I think, considering, again, depleted and certainly not to the extent of Dragons, but the players we were missing were a lot of our starting team and our head coach, which is a very weird thing to have in an international break, as your coach isn't there unless he's been sacked. Watching the games of tries. So the tries we scored were really good. a lot of, I mean, this was it. The first Leinster try was driving more, but a similar story to the Dragons. And I think it is a lot of Welsh teams have this problem at times. Is we conceded right at the end of the first half and right at the start of the second half. I mean, and we lost I think if you look at that try beforehand and then the next two Leinster tries, which were during the yellow card period, like Cardiff has shown, we certainly can't score when we're up one man. We're sure as hell not going to stop the other team scoring when we're down one. And you have a look at them, and some of those were a little bit soft. But then we did quite well to get sort of close, maybe threatening to get the second losing bonus point, and then just got killed off right in the last 10 minutes in what is just a typical Leinster machine thing. But me and the Cardiff boys were talking off air, and we said a point out in Leinster would be great. And we're only the second team to score a try bonus point against Leinster because their defence has been that mean. So take what we can with that game. Can win it at another game where, weirdly, he's very good in the air, which is weird, seeing so apparently he's not good in the air, and that's why he wasn't picked initially in the Six Nations squad. I mean, Gatland could have said the actual truth, which is his defensive positioning is woeful at the best of times. But yeah, I mean, moving on. This wasn't a game you expected to win. It's nothing really. Okay. Anything else you want me to say there? Rhys Barrett unfortunately got injured despite having a Wales and Long Puff piece, which I'm pretty sure is the death knell for most players.
Yeah. So you're quite happy-ish coming back because it's a palindromic scoreline.
Palindromic scoreline. We got the try bonus point, which sort of keeps us ticking over. We're still sixth. I mean, we're only going to go down. I think we'll struggle to get many more wins. I'd say maybe 2 more wins this season. Looking at the fixtures we've got.
Being happy that you've got a palindromic scoreline is like me winning the second half, mate. I mean, that's...
We all have our coping mechanisms, Leo, right?
We've all found a way of dealing with it. All right, mate. No, I'll let you have that one.
Can I just say, I think Harley's been hard, and I'm sure he's not been hard on win it, but I've always been a bit on the fence to win it, but I can actually see his ball in hand play is very good now when he hits the line. He's hitting really good angles.
He's unbelievable going forward. I said the problem is for him to make that step up to be a world class, to be an international class fullback. It's your defensive positioning. That's sure. For me, I've always picked I would always pick a Lee Halfpenny style player over a Sanjay player because I want my rear guard sorted. The fact he
can learn that,
an 80% goal kick is irrelevant. But I would like my fullback to almost be defense first, then the flashy stuff.
Yeah. Okay, but he might have to do it the other way around. But he's starting to.
Yeah,
he's starting to really
he won't
impress
get there.
me.
He's 22, but what I'm saying is at the moment he's not quite there.
No,
but he could be. Whereas I feel like someone like Hugh Anderson is a bit rawer, but I think he's got more of the all-round game, and the fact he's a bit bigger as well gives him that extraterritorial dominance.
Okay, let's move on then to the Scarlets, which was a game that I thought we should have won. I still think we should have won it. We shot ourselves in the foot. Well, we would have shot ourselves in the foot, and we'd probably miss. That's how bad we were in the second half. It beggars belief how many opportunities we had to. I think we had 4 kicks in the last 20 minutes, and we took the posts on all of them and missed one at the last 3. Ulster had one straight into the corner, try, thank you very much. And I cannot get over how different we were. The first 20 minutes, we were cruising. I thought, this is it, lovely jubbly, bonus point wrapped up by half time, all sorted. We can switch off and relax in the second half. And it just went to crap. And it's happened too many times now. Again, I think, and this is what I was going to talk about, it's a mentality problem where there were a couple of 50-50 decisions, which were how the referee came up with them. I have no idea, but he did. And we don't have a coping mechanism. We don't have a way of saying, right, okay, scrub that. Let's go forward and let's keep it clean. Sam Lousy is great for charging kicks down. And he lives right on that offside line, but the referee was watching him, and you could see the referee. I think it was like 4 or 5 minutes into the game, the referee pinged him, and I didn't think he was offside. He is just naturally quick, and because he's like 6'8", and then you put another 2 foot on top with the arms, and then he jumps. That's difficult to get the kick over the top of him. So, but he just didn't switch on. He just didn't get that the ref was watching him, and every time he came round, it was penalty, 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 and we just didn't get it. And it's frustrating because there's a lot of talent in that side. There's a lot of creativity in there, and we just don't back ourselves. You look at that side and you compare it to the way we were playing at the start of the season, and it's chalk and cheese. The pack actually did okay. The Ewan Lloyd, if you want him now, Harley, you can have him, because bloody hell, we need to bring Charlie Titcombe through and give him a chance to show what he can do, because I think Lloyd had 4 kicks in the whole game, 4 kicks from hand in the whole game. And you're trying to put a side that doesn't cope well under pressure, and you're trying to push them back. That the whole point of having that kick game is you push the wingers back and you keep the fullback back, so that your backs, your wingers, your fullback can cut into the line and there's more space. And we just kept throwing stupid ball. It was really, really frustrating. Defence was poor. I'm going to pick you up on something you said, James, about Max Page. Okay, so I know he's a young kid, yeah, but we need to stop this whole thing about how good he is. He was absolute dog shit in the second half. His defence, he missed about 6 tackles in the. It wasn't that he missed a tackle; he just wasn't anywhere near his player to make that tackle. He dropped balls off high kicks, and the bit that frustrates me with him, he's lovely with the ball in hand going forward. Not a problem with that at all. The problem is there were 2 opportunities where he's running at a player. Outside of him, you've got a 3-on-1, and he chips and chases, and the ball gets caught, and then we're back in, and we're knees out of position. And I've seen him do that since under 14s. And he hasn't improved, he hasn't changed, he doesn't do anything different. So we need to give him the time and the space to improve his game.
He's only 20, Lee, mind. Let's not forget he's only 20.
He's the same age as my boy, yeah. But that's what I mean, yeah. We need to, when you say give him time, we need to give him time. S4C, we're on about he needs to go on the summer tour. No. In the summer, he needs to work on how to defend. That's what he needs to do. He needs to stand on a pitch and work out how to tackle a player, because I think he got
Isn't he still under 20s, or is he just missed that?
He's too old now.
No, he's too old.
Is he just missed that one? I know he was in
20.
20s last season. I didn't know if he was 19 or like just 20 sort of thing.
No, but we build them up and we go, oh, he's amazing. Oh, look at it. He scored a decent winger's try with a chip over the chip from Gareth Davis over the top, lovely jubbly, and he ran it in unopposed, lovely jubbly. Ball comes up to him on the wing, slips it back inside. That's a standard try. That's not amazing. He did the basics. We put any winger in that position, he's going to do it. Okay, and I'm not saying that he hasn't got talent. What I'm saying is that we mask the fact that there are a lot of areas in his game that he needs to work on by saying, oh, he's great, he's amazing, he should be going on the tour to Japan and all of that. He's not. He needs to work on his game, and there's a lot of work in defence that he needs to work on. He wants to be an inside centre. He cannot play inside centre the way he's playing now. He does this bit where he won't tackle, he'll grab hold of a shirt and he'll try and just push the player down so he can go over the top and go for a jackal, and all that happens is the player keeps running, because he's not under 18s anymore, and he's got a 6'3" Stockdale running at him. So, I'm not saying that the boy hasn't got potential. I'm not saying that he hasn't got a big future ahead of him, but I'm saying that we need to stop bigging him up now and saying he's going to be on the Welsh tour and he's the golden child, because that's what will ruin him. And that's the bit that will put him in a position that when people do start questioning his game, and he does come down the other side of the mountain, and people go, actually, you're not as good as all it was. It just takes one bad game, and people start going, oh, that fall down the mountain. The higher we build that mountain now, the harder that fall down the mountain the other side is going to be. So, yeah, potential, yes, big opportunity, but let's look at the whole game. And I think he probably gifted Ulster about 65, 70 metres in total just by being wrong position and not tackling. So, but that game wasn't lost because of him. I'm not saying that game was lost because of him. That game was lost because we're missing McLeod and we're missing Costello. You haven't got game controllers. You know, McLeod would have absolutely wrecked Ulster, but he'd have done it in the right way. He's got the right mentality to lead that team, and we don't have enough leaders in that team at the minute. You know, there's some lovely players. Lousy, Fafita, great to watch. I hope Max Douglas had a fantastic game. Johnny Williams was absolutely bang on at inside centre. That's what you want from your inside centre. He was knocking 10 bells out of everything. But there isn't that mental kind of setup that needs to be there that we need. So, yeah, it was frustrating, really, really frustrating, but it is what it is. If it doesn't change, it's going to be a really crap end to the season, put it that way. And you can see already people are starting to go, maybe it is time for Peel to go. It really doesn't take much for people to get on his back. So I'm not on his back. I don't believe that's the right decision, but you can see there's a build-up of supporters that do want him out. So, yeah, that was a crap game for me on the weekend. Let's talk about someone that has got something positive to say. Nick, you can go cheer us all up, mate. Talk about Ospreys and their trip. Ospreys did travel north, Harley. Ospreys definitely travel north. Yeah,
it was almost due north. That is correct.
Yes, due north. That's what I Ospreys travelled to Glasgow. Off you go, Nick.
Yeah, well, nice way to finish off Dydd Gwyl Dewi, St David's Day. Save the best to last. Went through every emotion in this game. It was. We played very well, and we mustn't. To score 5 tries in Scotland takes some doing. And the way our attack has developed under Mark Jones, we always had good foundations. Our pack, we haven't lost too much there. And we just looked really decent. Obviously, standout players were Kieran Williams and Kieran Hardy. Hardy had a couple of kicks which I'm sure he'd want to improve on, but his overall play was very good. I'd like to give a shout out to a prop as well, Garen Phillips. He's developing very nicely on the loose head, put in an awful lot of work, scrummaged very well. I say the pack went well. Deves is playing very well. We've obviously got a big loss for us next season and is this going to stay painfully obvious, is going to be Tips. His general play and his nous is going to be a loss, as shown in that last turnover to win the penalty. But just we rely on him so much in the line out as well. So I think that's something for us to consider. Glasgow are a very efficient team. Even without their stars, they're a hard team to beat. I think that's the second loss in 2 years at Scotland. So that takes some doing to go up there and win. We should have probably won a little bit more comfortably than we did. I think we got one player which is perhaps a little bit further down that development route than Max Page in Morgan Morse. He's not the complete finished package. So I do sort of concur with you a little bit that we have a tendency in Wales to build players up too soon. But some of the things he does, some of the things he does, his footwork, his understanding the game is very good. But then we were lucky to be able to bring on the game. Sort of second half got a lot tighter. I think it went about 30 minutes with neither side scoring, and it was great to be able to bring in some like Morgan Morris off the bench and Will Spencer. Not that our second rows had gone badly before that, but they just had that little bit of experience. And maybe those are the type of things that when we come to talk about why Welsh teams in close games usually come the wrong side of on the scoreboard. you need that sort of experience just to close off games, and we were able to do it. I thought you know, we're going to lose when Macbeth of all what a very great Scottish name that is went over. But fair play. We won the turnover penalty, and cool as you like, Walsh kicked it over. So I don't think we'll get many better wins on that on the road. And what it has done for us now, most definitely, and it is so tight in that middle group, is certainly opened up the season for us. Um, I think we'll pick up quite a few home wins, and if we get some things on the road, I think we'll be there or thereabouts come the end of the season. But still got to do that. But after two promising performances, I think it goes hand in hand a little bit with the Leinster game where we didn't quite come out the right side on the scoreboard, but we did up at Glasgow. And I don't think you'll play two better teams in the league than those two. So yeah, future's looking quite promising for the Ospreys, and we're a very well coached side. I think Mark Jones is not ready for international level coaching yet, but give him a few years. If he can, he seems to have something, and he seems to be able to relate to people and players as well. And I think he's definitely one for the future after we've won a couple of the URC titles.
And I'd like to point out Mark Jones is the most experienced of all four head coaches, and one of them is currently doing international. But can I just put a shout out for one of the Glasgow players, just because he is an actual unit? I think he is actually a big American Fridge Freezer, and that was their number 4 lock, Olivier Juminjo. He's just signed his first pro contract. I think he's like 19. Because I said Glasgow also had 20 players missing. Like that was the big thing. Everyone had 20 players missing this weekend. But oh my god, if the rest of the pack, like if one or two of Glasgow players, I think him on his own was causing Ospreys all sorts of nightmares. I mean, it was a great win. Because I know I'm going to get all the Ospreys fans about how much I hate them, but which I do. But oh god, that guy is just I both dreading and looking forward to seeing that kid in a Scotland shirt in the future, because just what a unit.
You might,
and also shout out to Patrick Schickling doing his first ever game at Loosehead, the tight head prop for Glasgow.
You might want to have a listen to the SRC pod, Harley, because there's a young kid, I think he's still 19, in the Ospreys setup. He's at Aberavon. He's like 6'10". And when you talk about he's a unit, this kid's a unit. He's a Welsh dresser type unit. He is absolutely massive. He's mobile. I forgot his name. The boy, I saw the name last week, but yeah, the boys in Aberavon over the moon having him there. So if you're interested in young men that are built like an outhouse, he's definitely one to keep an eye on. He's huge.
Yeah, shout out as well.
Let's hope he's not like some of the other 6'8" Welsh locks we've tried producing.
Shout out to JP Dupree. I think he's been out for almost 2 years as well. You know, it must be depressing. Let's be honest, to not be able to play for that length of time, and but to actually get back on the field is a big achievement for him. So there's still hope for those who are on with long-term injuries in Wales. They might well come back yet in the future.
Cool. Absolutely. Right. So we'll talk about this mental setup in a minute, but before we do, if you are liking what you are hearing, by all means, do give us a like and a subscribe and share, tell your friends, all of that malarkey. It really helps what we're trying to do, which is to spread the word about Welsh rugby and bring it to some new people. There are some people, believe it or not, no boys, there are some people that don't know we exist. This is true, I know, but so we're trying to let's spread the word, and it does really help what we're trying to do. And while I'm on that kind of horse, if anybody fancies themselves as a little bit of a podcaster and they want to come join us, regardless of which team you support, I'll find a way of getting you in. And by all means, drop us a line and we'll get you on board, because it's yeah, it's always good to hear new voices. And if for some reason, I don't know why you would be, but if you're South African and you're listening, I also need a South African for the URC pod, because he's gonna go and do some study stuff, so he won't be able to be on the pod. Bless him. So yes, if you do fancy it, drop us a line. Okay, let's talk then quickly about this mentality thing, because you brought it up in your pod, Jim. I've brought it up a couple of times. You've touched on it, Nick, and Harley. You've said about it as well. We've all been in that situation. Our sides have all been in that situation where we're either just ahead and then they get a try, and then we all go, heads down. That's it. We're done. Why? Why is my question? What do you reckon is behind it? Generally, let's go on, Jim. You can start. Where do you think it comes from?
Look, I can't talk about the other regions, right? But I can only talk about the Dragons. I think that mentality stems from years and years of losing. It's as simple as that. I just think the Dragons have become so used to losing that now it's almost accepted. What we saw in that Zebra game, that wasn't a one-off. It already happened this season against the Sharks. They were 22-5 up, conceded a try before halftime, and then they implode in the second half. Because as I said on the pod, when you're a team of serial losers and you're losing week in, week out, when you suddenly find yourselves in a commanding lead, it's very difficult to know what to do because they're not used to being in the lead. They're used to chasing the game. They're used to being behind. So when they're in a winning position, they don't have that experience and knowledge to close out a game. And again, it just stems from years and years of losing. Now, it has been spoken about in Dragon circles about getting a psychologist in, a sports psychologist. Even David Wright at the Q&A said, I have been thinking about getting a psychologist. I think, Dragons talk about signing marquee players and all this. First of all, they want to get marquee coaches in, get an experienced coach in, because the coaching setup, I'm not happy with it. And I've expressed that on Dragons Lair. We got inexperienced coaches. And I think they need a psychologist to come in and just speak to the players and get them into the winning mentality. But this stems basically, the Dragons problem. Dragons suffer from it worse than the other regions. It is a Welsh problem. Don't get me wrong, because we've seen it at international level as well, haven't we? But I think with the Dragons, it's just stemmed from years and years of losing. And it's a cliche to say, but winning is a habit and so is losing. And the Dragons have been in this losing habit for so long. And I just think it's very, very hard for them to break. It can be done, but it's going to need money spent on getting good coaches and a psychiatrist to come in and actually sit down with the players and, try and install a winning mentality.
Well, I'm qualified. I'm not a sports psychologist now, but I am qualified as a psychologist now. So, yeah, I'll chuck my number in, Jim. So, yeah. See, I like the way you just.
It's worth a try.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's worth a try, isn't it?
It's good.
It's worth a try.
Yeah. So, Nick and Harley, you two were almost in the other kind of camp where, like last season, Harley, it was nearly winning everything by being in that winning position and then managing to lose every game by 1 point, and then kind of eking that up 2 or 3 points this year. And then Nick, you kind of started the season on a downward trend and then turned it around and gone back up again. So Harley, have you noticed anything in the mentality from players from last season to this that has changed?
I think a big part of it comes, it's been coming from top down. So Cardiff don't have a sports psychologist, but as we've seen in Wales, Jockey's just a naturally positive person. He focuses on like the positive. He doesn't tend to dwell on negative stuff. It's more of what can we improve as opposed to what went wrong. And I think Mark Jones is a fairly similar character as well. So I think that's, obviously could do. Something that Jamie and Gav have talked about on Dragon's Lair is how Philo, for whatever reason, just seems quite dour and almost as if he's been defeated anyway and doesn't particularly want the job. And if that's the sort of vibe, even if that's not the case, but it's just the vibe that if people listen to his interviews, the players are going to be picking up. And then does that mean their heads go a little bit sooner than perhaps maybe another player, a player in a happier camp would want. So I think Cardiff, we had a lot of experience come in as well, with people who've known how to win games. I do think Ed Byrne, maybe his playing wasn't particularly good, but when he was fit and available, that was when Cardiff were winning games, and like tighter games, and we weren't necessarily conceding a try and then conceding a second try so shortly afterwards, which is what we've sort of seen in these last few games. I mean, I can't put my finger on it without actually being in there. This is all speculation that we do. But for me, I think it does stem partially just straight from the top. Everyone is just, it's a positive message always going through of like, oh, we've lost, but these are what we're going to draw from it. This is what we're going to do better next time. And it's just trying to keep that going and going and going. And I think that's sort of from Mark Jones, he seems, from anything I've seen in him, it seems to be more focused on that. Whereas towards the end of the Booth era, it was always, oh, well, we've got to rest these players, this. These are the reasons we're not doing very well. And I feel like as soon as you start that negative mindset, it just makes it a lot easier for your head to drop.
See, so this is where the Ospreys do come in, is because Booth did understand the mindset stuff. Booth talks a lot about the environment and getting people in the right frame of mind. He talks a lot about being comfortable on the ball, being comfortable off the pitch, and all of that kind of stuff. And he spoke for a long time, bigging players up, and it did feel like something changed at the start of the season when they said, right, okay, that's it. This is your last season, and you're right. His media persona, if you want, changed. So, Nick, have you seen that? Does that resonate with Ospreys fans?
I think Toby did a lot of good work behind the scenes, and as you say, he built the squad as a unit of people, and talked a lot about the psychology of sport as well as the actual coaching. In some ways, you could argue that was his strength, and I think Mark Jones has added to that. I don't see it as being a revolution. I see it as being more an evolution. I think Mark Jones has come in, a positive guy, has a bit of humour as well, but I also think having those one or two experienced players makes a difference. People who've been in those tight games when you're very close to winning, very close to losing, having somebody who's been in that, you're not always going to come out the right side on the results, but that makes a difference. And as I said, on Saturday night, the ability to bring, and I thought it was a brave move. I don't think Morse was injured, and you could say he was playing really well. But to bring Morris, who's that few years older, and then Spencer for Fender was having a good game as well. Bringing Spencer on just turned the tide a little bit, and that's where the strength of the squad is so important, and that's where some of us are struggling, especially when we've got multiple injuries. It's not always about unavailability; it's about who is unavailable, which players are unavailable, which players might make a difference, which players might have that experience. So it's complex. But I do think you're right that in Welsh Rugby, we've got too used to losing, and we need to challenge that. And as hopefully we can strengthen squads next year, we shouldn't be going to these places thinking, wow, we could win. We should be going there with a little bit of expectation. I can't imagine Glasgow or Leinster, so accession, but Glasgow, the Bulls coming down to us and thinking, oh, we might win this game if we play well. They're coming down fully expecting to win those games, and we need to get back to that mentality in our away games and certainly at home.
Culture, isn't it? It's about culture and environment. And I think you make a good point about bringing people in from winning environments. I mean, talking about Philo there, yeah, he is a bit dour, but we had Di Flanagan, who was the complete opposite. It's not always just about positive coaching. It's more than that. And I do think bringing people in who have had success in previous clubs and other environments, I think that's a key as well. That's what the Dragons need to do. But you look at our recruitment for next season, we're bringing players in for Cardiff. No success, not being funny, but no success. Harlequins, are they successful now? Not really. So we need to bring in someone who's won trophies, players who've actually won honours at the highest level. so they can pass it on to the younger players. But who are you going to sign? Who's going to come to the Dragons? We haven't got the money to sign world-class players or, players who won medals. So it's tough.
I'll take you back a couple of years to when Pivac joined the Scarlets, and he changed the way we recruited players. And he didn't necessarily look at what they did on the pitch. He believed that if you have the wrong player in the wrong system, that player's never going to flourish. He looked at the mentality. He looked at the work rate. He looked at the attitude. When their side went behind, how did they respond? Did they? Sometimes you can see when a side goes behind and people just kind of stand behind the posts. Nobody gets together. Nobody has a talking to. Nobody says, right, this is what we're going to do. This is where we are. This is what the next 5 minutes is going to look like. I want you to do this. I want you to do this. And I want you to really focus on. That's what Pivac looked at. He didn't look at, are you an excellent player? He didn't bring Hadley Parks in because he was an outstanding crash ball merchant at 12. He brought Hadley Parks in because he had the mentality of never losing. And that kind of spread through the side. Hadley Parks wasn't an amazing player when he came in, but you started to fit a jigsaw together around players based on what do we need to do to win. And I think that's something that we've lost in over the last couple of years. We don't look at that, how we build players from 14, 16, 18 upwards. By the time you get to 18, your mindset is pretty much you're in the same kind of place, and you might have fluffy bits on the outside, but you're pretty much set that this is how I play rugby and this is how I deal with things. So that 14, 16, 18 kind of mindset is where you can really mold a player into it's okay to go behind because this is what we're going to do. This is what leadership looks like. This is what confidence on the ball looks like. This is how you spread confidence amongst your players. This is how you notice when one of your teammates is having a downer, and this is how you help them, sort of a thing. And we're almost frightened to coach that. We're almost frightened to say, look, this is how you play as part of a team. So, for me, I think we look at it too late in the day. You can do a little bit if you bring a psychologist in now, James. You can maximize the potential that you have in those players that you have there at the minute. But you take that psychologist and put them with under 16s, under 18s, under 20s, and you will increase the potential that each and every player has.
But this is what I said on the pod last night. This is my genuine concern I have at the Dragons, right? Contrary to popular belief, we've got a lot of talent in Gwent. We have got some really good youngsters at the Dragons. Hugh Anderson, Brodie Coughlin, Harry Ackerman, Ryan Woodman, Nick Thomas, Evan Minto. The list goes on, right? We've got very talented players in Gwent. But my concern is all they're ever going to know is losing because they're stuck in a losing environment. Guys like Hugh Anderson, as talented as he is, he's never going to taste success, is he? He's never going to get that winning feeling because he's stuck in this team that's going nowhere season after season. And it does generally worry me. And it makes me sad, actually, that these really talented kids are not going to realize their potential because they're stuck in a losing team, in a losing environment. It's sad. It really is.
Well, that's why I thought we'd bring it up today and have a chat about it, because I could feel your pain last night. I was going through and editing last night, and I could feel your pain coming through, and Gav as well. And I just thought, yeah, we might have a little bit of a chat about it. So, talking about feeling the pain, Scotland on Saturday. Let's crack that one now. Right, Nick, you can kick off on this. What are you hoping for from Wales on Saturday?
It's a different game, this, isn't it? Because all of a sudden expectation has gone up. But, it was a free hit, very much a free hit against Ireland. Everybody knew he was a new coach who'd had very little time with the players. But there is an expectation we're going to play a lot better again than we did under Gatland. This is a very hard game. I don't think anybody needs to underestimate the size of the challenge. Scotland should have beaten England quite comfortably at Twickenham. they can only blame themselves for that. How they'll respond to that, and it will be interesting. I think they'll come out all guns blazing. If we can hold them psychologically in the first 20 minutes and physically, maybe they'll start asking questions of themselves. But it's a very, very difficult game. We got absolutely stuffed up there 2 years ago, and we had on paper, a more experienced team with Bigger at 10, Liam Williams at 15, Adams on the wing. So it's certainly a game I'm looking forward to, though. That's the difference, isn't it? Before this game against Ireland, I was dreading the last 3 games of the championship, but I'm actually looking forward to see how we respond to that. Obviously, the coaches will have had more time with them, so it'll be interesting. But it's still a very difficult ask to go up to Murrayfield at the moment and win.
Okay, so interesting point that Nick brought up there, Harley, about Josh Adams. Do you bring Josh Adams back in after Mees? I'm assuming that he's going to be fit for this game. So let's assume that Josh Adams is now fit. Do you bring him back in? And if so, do you drop Rogers? Do you drop me? What's your thoughts?
It's really hard because you don't want to. Rogers is showing some fantastic form on the right wing. Adams more of a natural left wing anyway, although Jockey likes him on the right because the way he likes having an out and out speed guy and an out and out, and more of that more powerful wing who's going to be good in the tight. The thing for me is it basically getting closer to continuity, but is the better continuity keeping Murray, me, and Rogers together as a back 3 unit? One option we could see is Rogers moving to 15 to accommodate, and then your back 3 then gets a lot taller because Blair Murray is a very good player, but he is not tall. I think he's safe. I think that I hope he doesn't feel offended with me saying that. He's not, compared to the others we're talking about, he is not tall. And he did seem a little bit shaky under the high ball. I don't think Scotland are going to miss that trick to exploit it like they missed it against when they were playing England. They might do. They might think too much on their own game. Jockey loves Adams. As soon as he is as fit as he can be, Jockey puts him in because he knows he can run the plays. He knows that if he wants him on a first phase ball, he's got the physicality to make the game line. He's intelligent and he's usually in the right place. And his defense, the thing I think doesn't get emphasized enough is how good a defensive player Josh Adams is. His one-on-one reads are usually really good. He can marshal a backfield, particularly when you've got younger, less experienced players. Masterman is still quite new to the 13 role, particularly defensively. So that'd be much. And they have played together. But for me, it'd be a bit of a horses for courses. Who's training better? So that's a bit of a boring one. Boring, splinters in my arse. But
have you ever thought of a career as a politician, Harley?
Yes.
I'm going to speak for 3 minutes and not say anything at all. I'm not going to commit to anything.
I'm very good at that. And if you want more of that, Cardiff Central recording tomorrow night.
Okay, so Jamie, forwards then. So the 2 questions that I'd throw in at forwards is, do you replace Faletau with Wainwright? And who do you put at hooker now that Debbie Lake is back fit? So all yours. You've got the forwards.
I think it's really difficult to drop Faletau now, isn't it? Because he's been really, really good since he's come back. And look, we all love Wainwright, don't we? I would be tempted to keep the same back row. And I'm someone who's never liked having Jack Morgan and Tommy Raffel in the same back row. I always preferred having a bit of a balance, having 2 sevens in there. But I think I would keep the same back row. In terms of hooker, I would bring Derry Lake back. I would bring him in instead of Evan Lloyd. I'd probably still keep D to start because I think he's done nothing wrong, put in a brilliant shift when he started. And yeah, I would have Derry Lake probably on. I wouldn't chuck him straight in to start. I'd probably have him on the bench. Nothing against Evan Lloyd. I I think Dewi Lake is there for his leadership, and he's a better hooker at this point in time. So I think on the whole, though, I wouldn't change too much in terms of the team. If I Matt Sherrod, I'd just say, same again, boys. Don't tinker too much because we gave Ireland a really good game. So I don't want to see us rip it up. Even if Josh Adams is fit, I wouldn't have him straight back into the team, because I think it'd be very harsh on Rogers and me, So yeah, just I keep the same back row, but I probably would bring Dewi Lake in. And I think he will come back in as well. I think that's why he was called straight up to the squad. He's had a week to train with him now, and so I can see him just getting straight back in the match day 23. I think that's the intention anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. And thank you for asking me the question about backs when you know exactly. I play in a similar position to you.
Yeah,
Rick.
but we're all forwards, mate. Backs are too thick to sit there and talk about rugby for any length of time.
But I just want to say I agree with Jamie on all that, and I agree I'd bring Lake in over Evan Lloyd, but I'd continue D just because I think best lineup forward. And I'd keep Wainwright on the bench because I think the impact he brings off the bench is excellent. Same actually with Teddy Williams to an extent as well. I think both of them are. Listen, Nick did raise an extra question about maybe bringing a bigger six. I don't think we necessarily need a bigger six. I think we need more of a line out forward of the six because Scotland will target, their line out, even though their line out isn't performing as well as it can, it's still one of the better ones. So I'd be tempted to bring in, if you still want that double jackal, maybe you bring in both of them for Reffel, just because he is doing a lot of lineup stuff and has done a lot of Cardiff plays. Probably you're looking more. Be a far out stretch, but Plumtree probably fits in that role as well. But I think you lose your balance a little bit there as well. So I don't think he's as much a workhorse, which is where bring Wainwright in. But I mean, Jamie said it really. I think can just keep it the same. Just keep going, same again, boys. Don't change unless there's an injury or someone has properly outperformed themselves in training, because there's no need. There's no pressure on the boys.
No. The one thing I would
just go out and show what you can do.
The one thing I would add, the bench needs to make an impact.
Yeah.
Because it didn't make an impact against Ireland.
It didn't come on soon enough.
The replacement props in particular, our scrum went backwards, and I spoke about it before, Gav Thomas, big fan, but that was his poorest game I've seen him have for Wales. Henry Thomas as well didn't really make an impact. So this time against Scotland, we need our bench. Maybe that's an area where you could sort of tinker with a little bit, but we need the bench to make an impact in this game, because that could have a big say in deciding the outcome.
Yeah, and that's where I go with Dewi and maybe Adams on the bench, just to have an impact. Dewi's ball carrying would come into that. As you say, Elliot D had a very good game. He's probably the best line-out thrower. But yeah, I'm not. Rodri Williams is a very steady player. He doesn't have a huge impact off the bench, but he's a very steady player. Yeah, I think it's just and that will go back to the point we were talking about before around psychology. If we're in a one-score game with 15 minutes to go, do you think we'll win?
Yeah, but Scotland's mentality has been questioned a number of times, mate. So what we're saying about Wales, a lot of the Scottish rugby media now, there's a lot of pressure building on Townsend.
Oh yeah, there's pressure.
Rory Lawson came out last week and said defeat to Wales would be incomprehensible. And can you imagine if Scotland did lose to Wales? This is a Wales team now that's lost 15 on the bounce. Can you imagine the reaction in the Scottish rugby media? Townsend, I think, is a dead man walking if he loses to Wales. There's a lot of pressure on him now. There's a lot of fanfare around Franco Smith. They want him to be the next Scotland coach, just like they're waiting now almost for Townsend. I think they're very nervous about this game. If I was Scotland, I would be nervous because, we saw how good Wales were against Ireland. They've really got backing up Scotland. They've not lived up to their dark horses, billing yet again. Every single year, Scotland dark horses never happens. So they suffer from the same things that Welsh Rugby does in terms of psychology. So I'm looking forward to this game. I think we got a shot. Maybe I'm just being wildly optimistic. But after the Ireland game, I generally believe if we play the same way against Ireland, up in Scotland, I think we got a chance of beating them. And Murrayfield used to be a good place for Wales. So we enjoyed a lot of success there over the years. I don't know. I'm feeling optimistic. They're still favourite.
The Scottish Rugby Union have done a lot about how they change the mentality on match day for the crowd. In the same way, Murrayfield never used to be the fortress that Cardiff Arms Park used to be. And they've put a lot of stuff in place, like the piper on the roof and all that kind of stuff. So stripping the band back so you had to sing. All the stuff they do before the game, they've really focused on let's put that pressure, and it's a mental pressure. Hearing the crowd singing the national anthem does kind of get to you before the game, particularly if you're the away side. So, yeah, I think the Scottish Rugby Union have done a cracking job of getting into people's heads in the same way that WRU used to. Remember after the New Zealand haka, where traditionally then you'd go and kick off, and then what's his name? Wyn Evans came on and sang "Bread of Heaven," and the New Zealanders were like, "Well, what's going on? Well, why are you doing that?" And our pack was standing there singing "Bread of Heaven" as well, and it just throws them off kilter for long enough to get stuck into them. So, and my point for Saturday was going to be I'd still like to see Eddie James and Max Llewellyn as a centre pairing. I think that's finishing the game with those two on there. All you want, Harley, but I don't care. This is my bit.
But that's unfair on Ben Thomas, who had a really good game at top.
Let's not
throw the baby out with the bathwater.
No, for 60 minutes, I'd put those two on, and to finish that game, I'd send two massive tunnels just straight at the 12 and 13. And I think they're not used to having that kind of intensity put on them that last minutes of the game. What I would do for the first 15, 20 minutes, I would send hellfire at Finn Russell, and I would put him off his game straight away. Don't let him get into the game. Don't let him get confident. Don't let him get any front foot at all. Every time he's on the floor, you're pushing his face in the mud and you're shouting at him. You've got your finger in his ear and you're giving him absolute hell. You're undoing his laces when he's in a ruck. You're doing everything you can to put that guy off his game, because Scotland without Finn Russell is a completely different kind of setup. If you can get him rattled in that first 10 minutes, then we'll get on top. Then it's a completely different way of doing it. And when you talk about the dark arts, those are all that's where the dark arts come into their own. With just that little bit of niggle, the odd little elbow in the ribs as you're running alongside him, the little bit here and there, that little word in his ear when he's at the bottom of a ruck, that's where you need to be. And I think that's where we need to focus those first 10 to 15 minutes on Saturday. Just disrupt his game. Don't let him get into any kind of format, any kind of system. Just put him under pressure. He'll start dropping balls. Kicks will go straight into touch. And every time you do that, you just look at him and you give him a nice little round of applause and say, cracking, well done, son. And you'll get under his skin, because that's the kind of player he is.
There's more pressure on Scotland, though, isn't there? I still feel like this is a free hit for Wales. So I still think all the pressure's on Scotland. The question is, can Wales back it up? Was that game against Ireland just a new manager bounce? Was that an outlier? Or can we actually go again? That's the question, because we do need to back it up now.
Well, the actual question now is, let's have your predictions for Saturday's game. So, Jamie, you can go first on this one. Scotland versus Wales, Saturday, your prediction would be?
As I said last night, the Dragons late, I'm going to go Wales by 3, because I do actually think Wales can win this game.
Excellent. Harley, your prediction for Saturday?
I mean, I just want to say, I think what you're saying about Finn is bollocks, because Finn is one of those players. The only person who puts Finn off his game is Finn, because he's thinking about a pie or having his third beer. Like that's the thing. People have tried that on Finn before. It does. He eats it up. He invites players to go, and he'll just nutmeg them or something. Like he generally like it. You got to remember, as Finn Russell has a superpower, which is he remembers it's only a fucking game. Which is something, us as fans, we need to remember. I agree with Jamie. Yes, Wales can win. I'm not sure we necessarily will. I don't know if there's been enough time to put in the sort of game plan that will break down Steve Tandy's defence, which we've got to remember is actually the best defence in the Six Nations for all the bootlicking of Sean Edwards we hear all time and time again. I'm going to go Scotland by 8.
Scotland by 8. Okay, so we've got Wales by 3, Scotland by 8. Nick?
Scotland by 9.
See, that's the non-politician's answer there. Straight to the point. Yeah, Scotland by 9. None of this fannying around. Yeah. So Scotland by 9, mate.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so I'm gonna have to balance this up then. I'm gonna have to go with a Wales win by
1.
Wales by 1.
Talk about politician fannying about.
A last minute kick. A last-minute drop goal from Dav Jenkins.
Dan Edwards on the bench then.
No, for Dav Jenkins.
Is Jared doing it?
Do you think didn't talk about Jared, whether he'd be in. Anyway, no, Dav Jenkins in a surprise thing from a line out where everybody buggers off the other side of the pitch, and it miraculously comes back to him, and he goes, "Do you know what? I quite fancy a drop goal here to win the game." So shock of the tournament. Yeah, Wales by 1 for me on that one. And on that note, gentlemen, I will thank you once again for your time and company. Go on, Nick. What was that like?
Can I just give a shout out to the under-20s as well? The Hive on Friday night, going for the 3rd successive victory. I don't think they've done that for about 3 or 4 years. They are favourites going into that game. But if they could have another win, that would be great.
Thanks for that insightful bit there, Nick. If they could win, that would be great.
Yeah.
But in all fairness, all of Scotland's best players haven't realised they're Scottish yet.
Yes, they're still in the Southern Hemisphere.
Right. Okay. We're definitely going to finish on that note, Harley, before we get ourselves into trouble. Thank you again for your time tonight, gentlemen. Been a pleasure as always. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back again. We'll do this all again next week. And until then, enjoy your rugby. All the best. That was WRAP, the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Podcast. Please rate, review and share us on socials if you can, and join us again next week for more of the same. And until then, enjoy your rugby.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.